is Abigail Carl Clausen, and today I'm here with Raúl Ramirez Kigra and with Veronica Enns, and they're going to tell us a little bit about their experiences here in the Campos Menonitas of Chihuahua and as artists. So thank you very much for participating in this project.
Thank you, Abby, so much for inviting us.
Yeah. So just to start us off, can you guys briefly introduce yourselves?
You first, ladies first.
Okay, gentlemen. Veronica Enns. I'm located in the Campos Menonitas, and I do some trying to revive Plotiche art, and as well as my own projects with painting and ceramics, and some classes and workshops with young children.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Okay, and I'm a graphic designer, but I work as a photographer for more than 13 years now. And I work with magazines, documentary for some companies, for the government, some portraits for individuals, and I travel a lot for my work. Mm-hmm. And that's all.
Yeah. And tell us a little bit about each of your family histories and your connections to the Campos Menonitas here in Chihuahua.
Okay, my family history. I was born here in the Campos and grew up here in private schools, and then my dad transferred us to a public school that was still in elementary level, and that's where we had our first introduction to the Mexicans, to our locals, and that opened our eyes to a better education and that there's careers and you can study and pick. And so that was at the time very different. We were one of the first to go to public school, and it's been great because that's when the dream started to, yes, I want to pursue my career in art. Mm-hmm. And then I moved to Vancouver, Canada, where I studied fine arts, and now I'm back here as an artist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And my experience in Los Campos Menonitas has been for a short time, because of course when I was studying in the Mexican schools, we study about the Menonitas, but just that and some Menonitas that I saw at the city when they went to the stores and all that, but I never came to Los Campos, not until I was like 25 or something like that, because I needed to take some photos for the government, and later I became friend with some people from Cuauhtemoc, and they introduced me to more people here in Los Campos. They introduced me to Veronica.
Yeah.
And for now 2 years, it's been my time here in Los Campos, learning a lot.
Yeah. And so growing up, what were you guys' religious and cultural affiliations in your family? And growing up, what was daily life like in your family?
In my case, it was very traditional when we grew up, and the lifestyle was surrounded with the typical, that now seems to be a stereotype, that all Mennonites have cows and they milk like 10 cows in the morning, and they have all the chicken barns and farm, but it's changed a lot. But in my upbringing, it was like that until I was 12 years. That's when we sold the farm and we moved to the corredor, and my dad started a business. Yeah. And that was also the time when I went to public school. But the connection is always there to the traditional Mennonite roots of farming and more primitive lifestyles. Yeah. And religion was a lot of variations of Mennonite churches. Or not even Mennonite churches, but one breaking off and moving to the next with different, even international preachers. But it was all very similar from one to the next.
Yeah.
So that was my upbringing.
And for me, I have always been a city guy all the time since I was born. My family, all my family is Catholic. Some more traditional or some other more open-minded. My parents more open. My father even more. And since I started to study, to read more about life and the universe and everything, since I was like 15, and I opened my eyes for a lot of things at my church, well, my family's church, my religion. So I decide to step away from it, and now my parents are more like me. They are more open-minded. They still believe in, well, my mom, they still believe in the church, in a way, not in the church, more in the religion and Jesus and all this stuff. But I have always been away from that institution. For me, has been different from, for example, from my cousins. It's been different. And like more conventional from a Mexican guy, like more normal. That's it.
And so when you guys were growing up, what kind of interactions across cultures were typical in your family?
In my case, it would have been farms. In my family, growing up, it was a few workers that we had in on the farm that would help on the farm planting and seeding, sometimes even with the cows, milking the cows. So it was from the small ranchos we had. Also, there would be people coming and selling products on the trucks, or vaccination times you had to deal with a nurse that would come by the houses. And so we were always afraid of them because they were hurting us. And so that wasn't, that for us it was, oh, there's the Mexican people coming and they were gonna force us to get a tetanus shot. So otherwise, growing up was very minimal with interactions until we finally went to public school. That's when it all changed and we treated each other with respect as equals. Not often. In the small towns here, there's also big stereotypes about, from the Mexican perspective, about the Mennonites. They have certain expectations or think we're only incredibly religious, and every decision during the day is based on a religious ground, and so it will sometimes seem ignorant. We need to learn more about each other. And so being in school, it helped them to learn more about us, that we're just normal humans. And same for us, not always have these stereotypes about what every Mexican person does and doesn't do.
Yes, and for me, we didn't have a lot of cultural experiences when I was a kid. We used to have a normal life in just school that was just Mexicans, because it was at the capital, at the city, so there's not a lot of people from around, from a lot another cultures. Just the Mexa people that are there. Just a few American people that came, some family, some friends from the US, but that's all. That's all really. At school, everybody was Mexican. So not even, you can't see at that time there was no tarahumaras at school. Now they are.
Yeah.
But at the time, at the 80s, nobody was not tarahumaras.
Yeah.
Attend the school.
Yeah.
And Menonitas, well, we just learn about them, but that's all in the books.
Yeah.
That's all.
The stereotype things, right?
Some stereotype, yes. Because in that time, the 80s, there was more like the boundaries were bigger than now.
Yeah. And so, for each of you, what was a memorable experience, something that sticks out in your mind about one of the first cross-cultural experiences that you had?
Well, for me, it will always be the doctor's visits that my dad would take all of us, because we couldn't speak Spanish, so we had to describe our symptoms to my father, and then my father would explain it to the doctor.
Yeah.
So there was always the intermediate and not the direct relationship with the patient and doctor.
Yeah.
And the same when they would come to the houses, we would have, they would always ask us the same questions if we baked cookies all day, and if it was just cheese that we made in the campus, and just sometimes they were just curious about our lifestyle. And
for sure.
Those were the answers that we would have to try to answer in Spanish, in our broken Spanish.
Yeah.
And so the memorable memories are also that, well, the Mexicans have television, and they have all the cool things, and they read books, and we can't, and we wanted to be like them.
Yeah.
That was always, we wanted to also look fashionable and with style.
Yeah.
That was always
Yeah.
embarrassing that we had to dress a certain way, and we thought it was not beautiful. We would always compare ourselves to, we wanted to be like the Mexicans.
Yeah.
And for me, as a kid, the memories that I have are more with the tarahumaras.
Yeah.
Because they are there at the city. Of course, in La Sierra, but more in the city.
Yeah.
And they usually, well, the ladies, the girls, they came to the houses and asked for corima.
Yeah.
And that's where I learned what corima was, what I think it was.
Yeah.
That is like to ask for something that is not.
Yeah.
It means help me and I will help you.
Yeah.
So, but that's the memory that I have, that I was a kid and I saw these Indians, because I thought they were Indians, and like the Apaches and all the Sioux and all that.
Right. Yeah.
And I think about them as some kind of magical people that lives in the mountains, and came to the city and asked for our help.
Yeah.
And I never tried to speak to them because, of course, I didn't understand anything, and they are also very shy, and I was shy, so there was a huge boundary,
Yeah.
like a wall.
Yeah.
But I also saw them with a lot of respect. And I was a kid. I didn't knew all the things that the system and the society do against them,
Yeah. Exactly.
and how they behave because of the system.
Yeah.
And all that.
Yeah.
So there was good memories as a kid.
Yeah.
Later I understood a lot of other things with them. And with the Menonitas, only the people that I saw at the, for example, Sam's Club
Yeah. For sure.
is where I saw them.
Yeah.
Sam's Club. With all the families, all the beautiful families.
Yeah.
All güeritos, and the dresses, the beautiful dresses.
Yeah.
For me, as a Mexican, was beautiful to see all the ladies, the beautiful, like dolls, little dolls.
Oh yeah.
Blonde. And with cute dresses, and the man with the farmer dressing.
Yeah.
So powerful for me. It was so powerful. Even now, it represents a lot of power to be the man of the land
Yeah.
that works the land.
Yeah.
And as a kid, I felt I didn't knew it was that, but it was for me was that's cool, that's great.
Yeah.
The farmers.
Yeah. Absolutely. So talk a little bit how you guys got to know each other and started a relationship.
Okay, so for me, a lot of it has to do with where I live currently, at a little tourist attraction. And Cuauhtemoc respects our little getaway a lot. And so we have some friends in common that I didn't know knew him and didn't know me. So a famous artist, Miguel Valverde, he is a great painter. And he has done a series of Mennonite paintings, beautiful. Working the lands, woman. I don't know how he got such a close look at them, but he did a very good representation.
And he's originally from Cuauhtemoc.
And he's from Cuauhtemoc.
Yeah.
And Marco Delgado, a very strong businessman, and he's very good friends with Miguel. They were on the corredor looking for montacarga, like a scaffolding device, so that for Miguel, so he could paint the murals.
Yeah.
And the corredor here in the campus is known for all these tools and machinery. And so Marco had said, well, and if we're driving by anyways, we should go and say hi to a Mennonite artist that you should meet.
Yeah.
And Miguel had his work with him, and I had a bunch of chocolate made for sale. It was Valentine's Day. So we had a very nice talk about his art and chocolate, and we ate a lot of chocolate as well. And that's how we met. And then a few months later, he asked if he could introduce me to a photographer. He was interested in doing some work in the campus, and if I could help.
Yeah.
And that's where it all started.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we had another nice coffee, a FASPA. I had a little FASPA made. And so he came with his family, Miguel, and Raúl was there, and we started with great conversations, with a lot of respect and a lot of curiosity.
And from my side, well, I'm always traveling, and Miguel told me that I had to come with him to meet a Mennonita, an artist, because he knew that I wanted to take some photos of Los Campos Mennonitas. So he said, you must know this girl. She's an artist. She's a great artist in Los Campos. But I was traveling, so I said, I think I can't go this time. So we should do that later. And he insists. And fortunately, o como se diga, afortunadamente, my trip was cancelled, and I could came with them. Yeah. And we had FASPA here, and I saw her, and I just can't stop seeing her, and I still can't stop. And we start to chat, and we share some songs, some artists, and through the website, through internet. Yeah. And we talk, and then I came to visit her, and since then I came to visit her for more than 2 years, for 2 years now.
Yeah. And so, what were some of the reactions of family members, friends, when you guys started dating?
Well, at first it was taboo. I mean, it was, who is this person? And there's a lot of stereotypes around dating a Mexican. And for example, back to my childhood and being in public school, the first things that my uncle said, the girls are going to marry a Mexican. That was the first. They felt that some of their cultural values would be gone and just by marrying a Mexican. But that took a lot of time and many years until this was actually happening. But then there's always the stereotype of, it's happened a lot, because we have such different cultures. Locally, it's happened a lot where a man comes and presents himself as a single person, and he has a double family. So the first reaction was, "Oh, are you sure this Raúl Kigra doesn't have a family somewhere else? Yeah. Are you sure? Have you investigated this?" And then, since then, it just slowly, as soon as my dad met Raúl, he accepted him, but he had to meet him first. But for that, there were all these stereotypes or these questions about, because it has happened in a community. So that at the end of it, there is the guy with another family, and the relationship gets destroyed. And I think it's because of small town. It happens in this world. And I said, no, he's an artist. And I don't know if my dad understood what that means. And it doesn't mean that the artist comes with certain attachment, but more intellectual thinking. We agreed in a lot of things, and which makes a relationship so much easier. So that was, and now he's like a family member, right?
And for me, well, my family started to ask, why are you going to Cuauhtémoc so often? Do you have a Menonita there? They say that. And I didn't say nothing, because I'm more, I don't know how to say it, reservado. With my
reserved,
personal,
private,
even if it's my family. And, but when they find out, they were extremely happy, because they, well, my parents met her, and she's so adorable, and she's so, ¿cómo se dice? Transparente. She's calm, and
exactly.
So they fall in love with her right away. And they are still in love with her. And now all my grandparents, my cousins, my uncles, everybody loves her. So it was easy, and they embrace her. They embrace how she is, and they respect her a lot. And they are, ¿cómo se dice? Asombrados.
Like surprised.
About her culture. They are very interested in her culture.
Maybe that's why I'm even interested in my own culture, because I have different audience now, and that's maybe why I'm interested in the Plotich, because we have no history that we are portraying to our local Mexican. It is always very short history that you read in the museum, and that's about it. There's not a lot of interaction. And when you are with a Mexican family, then you start asking the same questions that they are, and often you can't answer them. So it's fascinating to dig deeper and learn a little bit more.
It was kind of like you had like a mirror kind of put back on your own culture, and like thinking critically and reflecting about. And
often so embarrassed that we're Mennonites. I used to. Well, there was this, my generation, when we went to Mexican school, it was like this. You're embarrassed, so you don't say that you're Menonita. You're of a Dutch and German heritage, of a Russian, Canadian culture, but it had nothing to do with the Mennonites. We tried to avoid that topic. And now, coming back from Canada, we have very, very strong Mennonite roots. And that doesn't mean all just religion. It is the lifestyle. We're so rooted in the land. And living in the city, you miss that freedom of the land, which to me is being very Mennonite.
And for example, with my family and the people that I know from my life, to meet a Mennonite means, well, we have a lot of respect. We, ¿cómo se dice? Los respetamos, pero los admiramos. We admire them. Because everything they have. Of course, the values they have. Because it's more, well, we have our religions, very different religions, but the base is the values. But the Mennonites are more, they live more based in the values. The Mexicans are a disaster about that. They are, it's a disaster. So the Mexicans, we respect a lot about that with the Mennonitas, and about the land, and how they respect the land, and all the stuff that we don't with the Mexicans. We don't. Of course, it's changing with both sides, but in the past, I grew up as learning that from my family. Yeah. And for example, my grandfather, he's extremely amazed with her because of the history of the Mennonitas. He's always talking to her about the history of the Mennonitas.
He knows more than I do.
And he always asks me about her.
Yeah.
And how is she? What is she doing? And
She's
all
baking
that.
cookies.
Yes, and all that.
And there's a question, are you baking cookies?
I'm one of those that by choice. Maybe when I grew up it wasn't a choice. I was 13 years old. My mom said, you still don't know how to bake bread. It's really time you learn.
Yeah.
Because at that age I had to know how to cook. And luckily I enjoy it. But it's not everybody's thing, and I've kept it up, but not as an obligation. I can do it when I want to.
Yeah.
And if I don't want to, then we go out for dinner.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so this kind of cross-cultural relationship, is it typical in either of the communities, or talk a little bit about that?
No, it would be more common now, but even 5 years ago or 10 years ago, it was very uncommon.
Yeah.
There were the odd ones that grew up closer to Cuauhtémoc that would have the cross-cultural relationship, as in the marrying a Mexican or vice versa. And they were always kept outside a little bit or away from the general Mennonite community.
Yeah.
As soon as they adapted some other cultural values, then they were kept outside a little. And even nowadays it's not very common, but it's at least embraced.
Yeah.
Definitely more embraced and even respected. I'm surprised. And a lot of it is that Raúl can also, well, he has a lot of respect for the culture, and doesn't expect me to change, and I don't expect him to change.
Yeah.
And that helps. Sometimes one member of the relationship has to change, otherwise it doesn't work. Yeah. And they're so different in the culture and the lifestyles. That's why it often doesn't work out. And then that's when it becomes that's where the stereotypes grow and give birth to more. You see, it didn't work out. And it's often that, our Mennonite community is very, very strong in its culture. And maybe the same with the Mexican. And just to mention, the punctuality is one thing that is of a different world between what we are used to. When we say this time, we come this time, and we eat at a totally different time, that doesn't matter, but it's just the respect of the time alone is already a huge cultural thing. Yeah. And you go to Cuauhtémoc and you want to get your business done, and at every appointment you're an hour behind while you're forced to stay in town and eat a lunch there, and then there's siesta time, and you have to wait 2 hours for them to come back from their nap, and then you continue with your daily, with the work. And sometimes that affects a lot with the relationships, that one of the persons has to change a lot to be comfortable with that, or to adapt. Yeah. Small things, but sometimes deal breakers for some people. Yeah.
I think for us has been just a little easier to, how you say it?
merge.
to merge as a couple, because we both are pursuing art.
Yeah.
We grow in a way, in a certain point of our life. We started to live by the art.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we respect nature. We both. Of course, she more because she grew up in nature, and well, I think that helped us a lot because we respect each other as humans.
Yeah.
We think as humans before Mexican or Menonita.
Yeah.
And or how you say, brown or güerita.
Yeah.
No colors.
No colors, because that doesn't matter for us.
Yeah.
I think that art helps us a lot with that.
Yeah.
Because and as at the age we have and all the things we have been through, we learn what we want and what we don't want, and how we can let go of some things.
Yeah.
Because we have more valuable things for us to share.
Yeah.
And for example, she's right about the hours. For example, the hour for lunch, dinner, and all that.
Yeah.
It's very different. It's 2 or 3 hours difference.
Yeah.
No, 2 hours.
Yeah.
But so what?
Yeah.
So.
And you're definitely the only Mexican guy that I know that's punctual.
And
he's more punctual than I am.
I think me as a Mexican, I think I'm one of the only Mexicans that I know that is punctual. I know a few, but not a lot.
Yeah.
So I am aware of what I am, and what can I offer to her as a person, not as a Mexican.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't see us as the Mexican or the Menonita.
Yeah.
I see us as the two human beings with a lot of, ¿cómo se dice?
Rich culture and heritage.
Yes, heritage.
Yeah.
That
absolutely.
we can share and learn and take the good things of each and grow together.
Yeah.
And that's what we are trying to do for 2 years now.
Yeah.
And I think it's working.
Of course it is.
So as you guys said, you guys both work in the arts. Tell us a little bit about your art, your medium, and your formation and work as artists.
Yeah, for me, sometime like when I was a student in Vancouver, it was all learning about international artists, learning about the art world and how we can learn from them and the masters. But at the end, it was all about finding your personal style and trying to find why are you making art and where you come from. And it was very hard being the only Mennonite, like here the word Mennonite comes out again, in the school in that time.
Yeah.
And I was embarrassed to even mention that I came from a small community. So I tried to hide it and fake it and paint. Well, I learned amazing new techniques and skills. But now that I'm back in here in Cuauhtemoc, I'm attracted to finding the roots of the arts here. And it's just a starting point, not something I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to do art that's my art, but I want to find a path.
Yeah.
Why art is not taught in schools here, why is art not considered important. It's just something that you call numian, which is imitating.
Yeah.
There's no thought of the original and why you make art.
Yeah.
And ceramics is very functional. I love it. It's therapeutic for me most of the time.
Yeah.
And painting is, I'm trying to paint some of my culture these days.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and as far as the formation, art really changed me and it took the religious views away, and it, like Raúl says, it just makes you a human. And in this world, in the universe, who are you? And of course, all these things, and the religion has formed you as well, and made you into a person. And art just helped me look to see what is necessary, and that I can respect my heritage and why it's so strong in religion. But what can I keep and I don't need, and to be more universal as well within a very religious community. And that seems that the art has the power to lay a foundation to be confident about that, about decision making, and not question why is nobody else doing what I'm doing. I don't need the validation of that necessarily. Because art has a great way to, art is art. It's like Albrecht Dürer once said that God was an artist and he created, and that all artists could feel like they were gods because they can create. Obviously not measuring up to the creator, but that you understand a lot more about the reasons of this world, and that it's all our elements and materials, and we're all the same. Color doesn't matter. And cultural beliefs neither, but they're just localized. And that we have to be above it to work together, not against each other.
Well, when I was a kid, I was a nerd. A totally chubby nerd. So I was always inside of the classroom, and I had asthma. So I was always in the classroom. I couldn't have the exercise with the other kids. So I stayed there. I was always drawing and drawing and painting and drawing, and I love it. And I was also listening to classical music, because that was the music my father used to listen. He still listens. It's the only music he likes. Classical music. And I grew up with that, with classical music. And also my father, he used to paint. He was a very good painter. But as a doctor, he couldn't continue with it. So I grew up with oiled paint as a kid, and I touched it, and it was like normal for me in a phase of my childhood. And then when I was at high school, it was a Christian high school, so they told us not to listen to this music, rock music, because it's from the devil, and it has bad lyrics and all that. And I said, okay, but why is it from the devil? Why is bad? So instead of getting away from that music, that I embrace it even more. Not to be like the black sheep about it, but because I was in a really, I had a real interest in why is it bad. So I like it even more. And I always, I think there's not a day, well, some days, but I'm always listening to rock music, metal music, and all kind of music, but more metal music. And metal music take me to read more. To learn about, well, not to learn, to look for answers. And that take me to metaphysics and all that stuff, and religion, because the hard rock bands always talk about, well, not always, but a lot of them talk about the devil and God and all that. And I said, okay, what's the deal with this? And I start to read about religion and the Catholic Church and the Christians, and I studied about the Pope and all the wars because of the religion and all that. So I opened my eyes, and I still had that feeling about create things, because I was always drawing. And when I was like 11 years old, I discovered photos, camera, and I started to take some photos. And when I was at the university, well, I always thought that I was going to be a veterinarian because of my love of the animals. But I realized that I had to do something with my drawing and all the stuff. So I studied graphic design, and there I learned more about photographic, and I continue with it, and I love it, and I learn more about art history there, and I read more and more, and I open my eyes even more, and I get away even more from religion, and I had a phase where when I got, ¿cómo se dice? Me alejé de mi familia, because well, like, of course I was also like a teenager, but more like founding myself, searching for myself. So me alejé de ellos. And finally, I found myself after I had a huge mistakes. But I found myself with art. I calm. I embrace a lot of good values. And here I am doing some documentary works, projects with photo. I got away from graphic design. I still love graphic design, but it's not my thing. I love editorial design. That helps with my projects, but it's what I do, photos, and I have some exhibitions in galleries and museums in Mexico, in the US, and Spain. And I have traveled a lot because of art. So art has helped me a lot in a lot of ways. It opened my eyes first from things that now that I know that is bad in the system, and it opened my opportunity to travel around the world. I know a lot of countries because of that, and it shows me that I can express myself, what I think, what I believe that is right with art, and also art bring me to the person that I love. And it's all because of art, and I continue traveling because of it.
And you mentioned that you were doing different documentary projects. What have been some of the subject matters that you've covered in those projects?
Well, I had some. My first solo exhibition was about bullfighting, the toreros. I'm against the toreros. I'm 100% animal lover. I don't know how to say it in English. I'm against it, and I had my first exhibition in a very cool museum in Chihuahua, and everybody loves it. They still love it now. It was with film, not digital cameras exist in that. Well, they exist, but I was too young to have one. And they were very basic cameras. So it was it's what I wanted to say when I was 22. So for me, I was learning how to make a project. And it turned out very well. Then I make a few, but the most important after that was about this Seguro Social, I don't know how
healthcare, like the public health system.
Public health system in Mexico. Well, in Chihuahua, and I had an exhibition in the Congress with that. So everybody loved it, and it opened more doors for me to continue working in some others. Then I make another project for women, with women, Mexican women, and about a year and a half working with them, taking photos of their life. I didn't have a life because it was 12 women.
Yeah.
So imagine to give time to all of them and also my life working. So
And that was all over Mexico, or
just in Chihuahua.
in Chihuahua?
Chihuahua
Okay.
and Juarez.
Yeah. Chihuahua.
And Cuauhtemoc.
Okay, yeah.
But most Chihuahua.
Yeah, for sure.
And I had an exhibition about that. 2 years later, the government published my book about that project.
Yeah.
And with that, I also travel a lot, and I had presentations with it. And it has been very cool and it opened my eyes again.
Yeah.
With a lot of things about women and about life.
Yeah.
More about women.
Yeah.
My respect for women grow even more. And ¿cómo se dice? Cómo me emociono, cómo de lo que representan las mujeres. What they really are in nature. They are the center of, for me, they are the center of nature. They are the center of life. They are the center of family, of everything.
Yeah.
For me, they are, yes, the center of the universe. And that's what I try to do, to say with my book.
Yeah.
And I have been interviewed a lot from that book, from that project. And I always said what I think, and I get embraced. Of course, more from the women, but also from men.
Yeah.
Things are changing slowly, but changing with men. So that's what I do with my projects.
Yeah.
Make them more interactive, right?
Yeah, I try to do it more interactive, not just to put the photos in a wall and that's all.
Yeah.
For example, when I had the social security system, I had some, ¿cómo se dice? Conferencias around the state with the University of Chihuahua.
Oh, okay,
They take me to the university in Delicias, the university in Cuauhtemoc, in Juarez, and I show the photos, but I talk about the system.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was kind of an academic component as well.
Yes.
To the work,
And to the students. It was for the students, with the students.
Yeah.
And I asked that please all of them write something what they had, what they see, what they saw with my photos.
Yeah.
And it was a cool experience for me. That again opened my eyes. And that's what I do with my book again.
Yeah.
And I could share it in Mexico City, in Chihuahua, in Juarez, in Phoenix, Arizona. And it's cool because I have a retroalimentación from a lot of different perspectives.
Yeah.
Men and women.
Yeah.
A lot of different ages. Desgraciadamente, los jóvenes no opinan mucho.
Yeah.
It's more the 20s, 30s, they speak.
Yeah.
But the younger the generations, they don't speak a lot.
Yeah. And so for you, Veronica, what are some projects that you're involved in at the moment, or kind of bigger works you're working on?
The bigger works are, trying to revive or spark the interest of art in the community. It feels like it's starting from scratch somewhere. It's hard to get references from where to start, or who can I contact that has done public art or art that's been recognized. So I'm trying to find the women that do the coloring books of the lifestyles of the campos, and they're all printed. They all have the location of the printing, but not the artist who's doing the work. And so that is definitely one thing I'm trying to find and supporting women that make stuff, try to host little, like the Christmas market last year was a work of 3 ladies, myself and 2 cousins. And the idea was just to value the work that they do with their hands, that is always very functional and practical, but there's definitely the quality of a creative side to it, and to some degree maybe a therapy, because I've never seen so much value to the creative process since we had so much insecurity in the campus. It was always just, well, if it doesn't pay, then I will not dedicate any time to it. Because it's all functional here, and who has the biggest house, the cleanest house, the newest vehicle. It's a lot of that competition that's rubbing off on people. And the arts never had an importance, but since we have had a lot of gang activity, I see that there's more value put into it. And especially more from the women's side, because they're the ones at home and struggling more with, well, they don't feel safe driving. There is a challenge, and so making something creative can help. And also the government is finding or also interested in hosting more like a festival, and they make contact because of Raúl. Raúl can send them, he has more contact in the campus now, and then we can try to form a team to find more literature and poetry, music, more original art. And there's lots of talent, and my job these days is the voluntary work of finding people and maybe starting something to just set a base, a foundation of arts. And I'm preparing a little exhibition with my sister, focusing on women, Mennonite women, and basically representing or looking into their daily lives a little bit from different perspectives. I'm doing it with painting and ceramics, and my sister with a series of photographs. But we're trying to, well, it will be our first exhibition, and not for me, but for my sister, but doing it together, because a lot of work here in the campus, the women are doing things together. And we need to work together, not against each other.
And that's at the Tres Culturas Festival there in Guatemala?
Yep. And then one next exhibition solo in Chihuahua in May. Or beginning of June. That is where I'm also trying to bring the campus to Chihuahua, but with a more, maybe a more academic perspective and more of a history of art perspective, bringing those two things together. Also because, again, we have, like, I will just share one experience from recently. Someone commented that if we wanted to be traditional Mennonites, then we should be traditional. We cannot be modern and then have an interest in the traditional, that it's an insult to the traditional woman. And it's not. And that was a Mexican perspective, a local. I think we have a lot of work to do to break the stereotypes. Tourism, they want to come and see only the romantic, nostalgic things that they have read in books. And we need to show other, like, that we're all the same, and some struggles and some very, I think it's privileges that we have here, a lot of freedom, and the daily activities and how we choose to live our lives, but also breaking some of the stereotypes is part of the art projects. It's complicated.
And so you guys are very much back and forth between the campus and Chihuahua. How has, for you, Veronica, this contact with the city impacted your perspective, your art, your relationships, and then Raúl, for you, your contact with the campus? How was that?
Well, for me, Chihuahua is good to have in my life, because I'm used to the Vancouver city buzz, which was a beautiful nature, like one of the most greenest cities in the world. But still, if you are just an everyday worker, you have your small flat and you're restricted to the access to the nature. Obviously, you have the ocean, but you have to pay for everything, or you're too tired after your job to go and enjoy it. And I feel that we have very little nature here in the campus. I know it's nice, Kigra says we have a lot of nature, but it's different kind of nature. I mean, the untouched nature. It's more desert-like and very fragile. But I feel I can feel it more because I have more time to be in it. And then I do miss the city. So Chihuahua has that. I can, there's book readings, there's book presentations, there's theater, there's jazz, there's beautiful, quite a few fancy chefs that are creating art with food. And they appreciate my ceramics. I will make them plates for competitions. And we can, like all the fancy life that you can have in a 5-star city in a first world, there's definitely some in Chihuahua, and it's so attractive to spend time here, and then I need my city city fix again. Also the art, you can go to see some exhibitions and learn about artists, and Mexico has a lot of talent, especially in the technical. I'm always blown away about the capacity that a lot of artists have. So it is lovely to have both worlds. Sometimes we talk about living in one place, and we always, after discussing it for quite some time, we always come back that it's beautiful to have both places.
Yes, it's like a plus for us to have both places. And to embrace both things, the good things of the two places. For me, has been like refreshing. Because I'm not always I'm not always in the city. For me, it's new. It's totally new. To be that amount of time in something that is not a city. And I'm learning about a culture, because it comes also with learning a culture. Because I'm surrounded of a different culture. I just have to manage my agenda. Because of my work. But of course I have my priorities very well established. So it's easy for me. It's easy for me to manage that.
You're learning about how plants grow and
and of course I knew about the value of eating about what you, ¿cómo se dice? ¿Tú siembras?
Oh, like what you have.
You harvest what you plant.
Yes,
you harvest what you plant.
Of course I didn't know about that, but now I'm living it. And it's amazing. It's great. It's healthier. It's amazing, and I'm doing it with a person that I respect, because she's amazing, taking care of that in the kitchen. Something that of course I never learned from where I come from. So it's amazing.
And you guys mentioned learning from each other's cultures. What are some of the biggest lessons that you've taken away from the culture of the other partner?
I'd say it's a beautiful experience. From what I've encountered is that Mexican people usually respect and admire us and don't just criticize us. And especially the family of Raúl, they've been incredibly supportive and understand our issues, and they try to help. they're not as closed. So that is something that is so beautiful to learn more and not be so stressed about everything and and picky and always so like they're more trusting. They trust each other more and they trust me, and I can learn that from them. And be a bit more relaxed. We're a very tight culture in the campus. We're always very afraid of what other people think of us, and that's one good thing about the Mexas when you say they're a disaster.
Yes.
That's great.
They are more relaxed.
They are more relaxed and not so worried.
Yeah. You just have to learn how much relaxed you have to be to live in the system that we create as a culture with the other cultures. And for example, for me, what I really like is the family reunions because they are big. And there's always a lot of good food and the respect they have. The good thing about they have with the religion, that they respect the food and where it come from, and they are more international people because they have relatives in Canada, in Germany, in
United States.
the United States, in Belize, everywhere. They have relatives everywhere, and it's very normal for them to travel a lot,
visit them,
and talk. I'm amazed that they talk 4 or 5 languages, like in a regular basic day.
And we're definitely, we don't have a university in town and we all speak 4 languages.
Yeah, and that is something that we, the Mexicans, we should learn about the Menonitas. And I said that in the Secretaría de Cultura, in a meeting that we had with the, I don't remember what's the name of that particular office, but it's about Menonitas, Tarahumaras, and all the cultures in the culture. And I said to them that it's something that we must learn about Menonitas. They speak 3 or 4 languages. We barely speak 2. Más o menos. English, más o menos. We don't speak Tarahumara, we don't speak Rarámuri. Afortunadamente, now we have some Tarahumara lessons for 2 years now. It's great. But you have to go to the Secretaría de Cultura. And it's free. You can take Tarahumara lessons. But we don't have German lessons. We must.
Or Plotich must be.
Or Plotich. And that's something that I admire with them.
Its lifestyle forces you to learn the different languages. It's not that we learn them in school and classrooms. So
because we just learn English, and like 5 or 10 years ago, the university had Chinese. Why we want Chinese? I mean, of course, it's great for business.
International business.
Of course, but we don't. Not all of us deal with Chinese. But we are more close to the Menonitas and the Tarahumaras.
Locally.
And of course, the U.S. We have English, but we could have also Plotich or Rarámuri. In a basic elementary school.
Absolutely. So the name of this project is Rebels, Exiles, and Bridge Builders. Which of these words, if any, would you use to describe your interactions across cultures, and why?
Well, I think I've been the 3 of them. Dare to be different or question things and pursue your dreams, even if it's not possible in the beginning. You keep pushing your limits, even if you're considered the black sheep for many years. But then it's beautiful to be embraced, and it's important not to pay back. It's important to use that element and become the bridge builder. Because you've tasted the exile portion as well. For more or less for speaking up when you're maybe because you're a woman in a culture where you have to be submissive and you make some decisions that are important for yourself but not agreed from your family or by the church. So, and then later in my time now, I definitely feel privileged for that art has allowed me to get in touch with the current movement with trying to preserve the Plattdeutsch language and also the art and the Kunst, how we can use that as part of the language. And I feel that it's important that I can be part of it in the arts. And that is the bridge building part, which I am very honored to have.
Yes, I think that us as people who are trying to live with art in our lives, we accomplish with the three of those words in specific times of our lives, and randomly, again and again and again and again. And with our families and outside of the family, with the friends and the people that we cross in life. With our art and with our way of living. Because, for example, when I was a teenager, my parents got so afraid that I was talking that, I'm gonna get a tattoo. Someday I will get a tattoo. And now, even my mom wants a tattoo.
That's how it works with painting your lips and becoming exiled for painting your lips, and later everybody's painting their lips.
So also my aunties wants a tattoo now, and now they ask me for my advice for it. And also when I was like 20 something, that I started to read about religion and the Pope, because my family is Catholic, so the Pope is the principal figure and the most important, and I read about all of them on all the mess they did in the history. Now my mom, more my mom than my other relatives, is more aware of all that, so she opened her eyes, and my father too, and they embrace more, so it's part of it. And also that values that I learned reading, my approaching with art and all the music, the painting and reading and all the stuff, I try to live it and I express it with my art, with my projects, and my parents, my friends, all of them also embrace it, and they try to understand it in their own way, and they make little changes in their lives. I feel it more in my family because of course I have them with me, but also my friends, and I can see more the people that is good for me in my life, and the people that is not good for me, I just ¿cómo se dice? Me alejo. From them.
Kind of like distance yourself.
Not in a bad way, just they have their lives, okay, just live your life and I will live mine.
And so to finish out here, what do you think cross-cultural interactions will be like in the future here in the campus, and what are some desires that you guys have for those interactions in the future?
The desire would be to work together in the Tres Culturas. We are one of the only recognized Tres Culturas in all of Mexico that have had festivals. This year they're celebrating the 25th festival. And were breaking some statistics and said that they have to beg people to participate, and that it's so hard to get our cultures together.
Yeah.
And it would be a dream to not be so separated and not attack each other all the time about what we do and we don't do, and you should do this and we should do this.
Yeah.
And more art. I will always be the advocate for more art in the campus. And the future, I think it's growing. We are becoming, thanks to technology.
Yeah.
I know technology has a lot of, it causes distractions, but there's a plus to it that at least a woman now has access to a device. If she needs something, she can contact. And the social media has a lot of influence on what is shown, and there's definitely more rights shown, and maybe not all good, but a lot of it, at least that you have to question yourself and see, okay, what do I do with this information? And you can talk about it and compare it. So I see our culture, because it's been it's almost a century behind. Just 10 years ago, before the technology, the internet, it felt like, coming from Vancouver, it felt like 100 years back. And just in 5 years, that everyone, I think 15 years up, has a cell phone these days.
Yeah.
It feels like they have grown up, or the culture has progressed 20 or 30 years in 5 years.
Yeah.
With not the taboos have gone down, not everything is so bad, or start a new church just because someone disagrees on how you wear a dress. It's more, we can work, or we can learn how to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, it's not being said, but it's just tolerated more. We become a little bit more universal, and we can blend in more with the local cultures.
Yeah.
And the Tarahumaras, Raramuris, it's our problem that we don't speak their language, so we don't know anything about them. These are just Indians that come and ask for help. We don't understand anything about their culture, and we do need to learn and respect.
Yeah.
And if they all want to come out of the mountains, where do they belong, and how can we help them in our communities, and not just all be our maids? They have more potential.
Yeah.
And I think education is what can eliminate the boundaries.
Yeah.
You. Well, my hope is that we, the three basic cultures we have in the state, we someday finally learn about each other, but in a real way, not too por encimita, not just the surface.
Yeah, exactly.
That could be that the system, the educational system in the state, could make some little changes to learn more about us. And because the three of us, the three cultures, we have a very basic line that que nos une. That is, the three of us, we believe in a master, in Christ, in the rules that he came to learn, to teach to everyone. Yeah. That is love. So everybody talks about love. So let's do it. Let's stop with the hypocrisy, that thinking that the other one is better than the other one, and that we are less than the other one. Yes, we are extremely different. We think that we are better than the other. And that's stupid. Because we came from the same place. We have the same roots. Talking about the religion. And I think it's important for us to open our eyes about that and learn that we are the same and we have the same, we are looking for the same, to be happy. So we can do it together. And that's it.
Thank you guys for having this conversation.
Thank you, Abby, for asking.
Thank you.